Okay, before we go into mitosis and meiosis, we need to first look at a chromosome. Okay, remembering that a strand of DNA is going to have on the side sugar, phosphate, and then connecting the sides across the middle are your nitrogen bases, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. This is representing the structure of DNA. And if you had the DNA strand and it began to coil, in other words, twirl it tighter and tighter and tighter, eventually it's going to wrap around itself to give you that structure that we recognize for chromosomes, the structure of an X. Taking a look at chromosomes, we have homologous chromosomes. Notice in this first picture you've got one purple and one green. They're homologous, meaning they're the same size. They're going to carry the same genetic information. And then after DNA is replicated, then we have homologous chromosomes, but now you get the traditional X shape. So now we have that purple X and the green X, each one representing a chromosome. And then the pieces of the X are known as sister chromatids. The sister chromatids are attached together at the centromere. Sister chromatids are going to have the same size, they're going to have the same location, their genes are going to be in the same spot, they're going to have the same alleles. In other words, an allele is something specific like eye color or blood type, and they're held with that centromere. When we're looking at homologous chromosomes, again, they're still the same size, they still have their genes in the same location, they carry the same genes in the same spot, but again, the alleles now can be different. They're not attached at that centromere. Let's take a look at this next diagram. Here we're looking at homologous chromosomes. Let me grab the pen. We have the same gene being represented. So I could say that this green line and the blue line are representing eye color, the allele for eye color. But this chromosome might be representing blue eyes, and this chromosome might be representing green eyes. So you can have the genes in the same location on the chromosome, and they can represent the same type of gene, but they don't have to be identical. We could say that this red one and green one are representing hair. This red one could represent curly hair, and the green could represent straight hair, but it's still the gene or the allele for hair. When we take a look at all of the chromosomes for an individual, that's known as a karyotype. This is representing a karyotype for a male. And you'll notice we have our 23 pairs of chromosomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way, here's 22, and then this is our 23rd pair. That 23rd pair is going to determine if you're looking at a male or female. In this case, I have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. And an X and Y chromosome are going to represent a male. So when they look at a karyotype, they know if they're looking at a male or female based on this last pair of chromosomes. For a female, this karyotype represents a female. Again, you've got your 22 pairs of chromosomes, and then this last pair, this is the 23rd pair. This case, we have 2 X chromosomes. 2 X chromosomes represent a female. Comparing a male versus female karyotype, again, we have 22 autosomes. In other words, 22 pairs of our chromosomes are autosome, meaning they're body cells. This 23rd pair, those are representing the sex chromosomes. Again, for a male, you have an X and Y chromosome, and for a female, we have two X chromosomes. Let's take a look at diploid versus haploid. Diploid, that DI is representing 2N, where N is representing our 23 chromosomes. So in a diploid cell, we have 46 total chromosomes. There's 2 sets of each chromosome. This is true for all of your body cell. If you look at nerve cells, muscle cells, bone cells, skin cells, they're all going to contain a total of 46 chromosomes. When we look at haploid, you can think haploid like half the number of chromosomes. This is going to be your gametes, your egg and sperm cell. They have half the number of chromosomes, only 23 chromosomes, because when an egg and a sperm combine together, then they will have a full set of 46. But individually, they need to have half, or haploid, half the number of chromosomes, only 23. Again, looking at diploid versus haploid. Our diploid, again 2N, meaning 46 total chromosomes, they are going to reproduce through a process known as mitosis. Again, that's your body cells reproducing by mitosis. The sex cells are gametes, egg and sperm cell. They're haploid. There's only 23 chromosomes, and they're going to reproduce through a process called meiosis. Looking at a set of chromosomes, in diploid you have, again, 2 sets of chromosomes. Notice we have 2 pink, 2 purple, 2 yellow. In haploid, you've only got 1 set of chromosomes. There's only 1 pink, 1 purple, 1 yellow.